Confidence. We're talking about confidence today. And have you ever been in a situation where you're meeting with a client or maybe you're not meeting with your client, maybe you're just working on a project or a proposal and you're kind of doing the write-up and you're trying to figure out what the price should be for the project. And you're sweating it. You're like, I don't know what to charge. I want to make sure I charge enough to be able to do the work that I need to do, but I don't want to go too high. I don't want to scare anybody away. What should the price be? And so you finally figure something out. You put a price down only to learn that you actually lost out to someone who charged more. And so how can that be? Like, what's the deal? And so then you think, well, man, if I wish I just had the confidence to raise my prices. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Like, how do you get the confidence to raise your pricing? Because there's a good way to go about it, and then there's a bad way to go about it. And a lot of times I think people tend to sort of just kind of amp themselves up in order to increase their pricing, which of course is the bad way to go about it. You don't want to just like fake your confidence. You want to have like legit, actual, real confidence in your pricing. And so, so that's what we want to go through. So in this workshop, you're going to discover exactly how to get the confidence to charge the rates for your work. And you're also going to discover how to change your mindset about who you are, what you're doing, who you're working with, why people are hiring you, and why it's the best decision that they could possibly make to work with you. So, so that's what we're talking about right now. And the reason that I want to bring that up is because there's a lot of myths around the concept of raising your pricing and getting the confidence to actually raise your prices. So one of the myths is it takes, a long time to justify a higher price. And that is a myth because while experience is sort of something that plays into the equation in the sense that you can't just charge a lot of money and not be able to do something worth the money. But it doesn't necessarily take, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years to, get out of the gates and actually make a decent living as a WordPress consultant. So you don't have to incrementally increase your pricing over time. You can go right out of the gates with a high ticket offer, assuming you have an actual high ticket offer and you have the ability to pull it all together. And that's what we're going to talk about. Like, how do you have the confidence to put that high ticket price on that offer to make sure that everything works out? And here's the thing. The reason that I want to bring this up is because most of the time when I hear people talking about, raising your price and get the confidence there and get your mindset straight and all of this stuff, a lot of it feels like hocus pocus to me in the sense that there's no real anything behind it. It's just kind of like you're working yourself up into a frenzy in order to basically numb your better judgment in terms of your pricing. So for example, what I mean by that is you think to yourself, well, I wish I was charging, $5,000 for a website. And, I know that my client's not going to be able to afford anything at that level, but yet I know that I'm worth it anyway. And so I just need to go into the meeting with the confidence to say the price that it's really worth. And then they should therefore, accept the offer and do the thing. And so that's that's kind of the fake level of confidence. And the reason that I wanted to kind of articulate that is because you don't have to do it that way. Like there's real confidence and then there's fake confidence. Fake confidence is just trying to, get energy going or get yourself feeling like you can do something, even though the thing that you're about to do is probably not going to be the best. There's courage where you want to be able to move forward and do something courageous where you might otherwise feel like, oh, that's too difficult or too challenging or I don't want to do it. But then there's just kind of forcing something out that isn't really going to be a good fit. And that tends to be the kind of confidence that people refer to when they say, oh, I just wish I had the confidence to raise my price, because they're sitting there on an offer that legitimately isn't really worth, in the eyes of the client, mind you, isn't actually worth the pricing that they want to escalate to. And therefore, the reason that you have to think, why do I feel like I need confidence? Like, why am I not just doing it naturally? And it's usually because you're sitting there, people have said no to you with the offer that you currently have at maybe a lower ticket price. And you're trying to say, well, even though they said no at the lower ticket price, when I raise my price to what I'm really worth, then people should say yes. And it feels uncomfortable because you know they're probably going to say no anyway. So you try to bust through it with this kind of like, it's just fake confidence. There's no real substance to it. And so what I want to tell you is you don't have to do it like that. Like that's not the best way to go about it because it burns you out and it doesn't last, and there's no substance behind moving forward with your business at that level. So what we really want to do is have what I would refer to as like real confidence, and real confidence is backed by like reason and like evidence, right? So let's explore reason and evidence for a second. So what I mean by reason is there's like some reasons why somebody should take the action that you are proposing. So you're not just saying, I think I'm worth a certain amount because I've spent a certain amount of time in the industry, or because I have a degree, or because my past client paid me a lot of money. Therefore, my next client should as well. That's the kind of there's no real reason for that. Like you need to make sure that the offer that you're making is congruent with the investment that you're asking for. That's kind of the idea behind the reason. And we'll dig into that here in just a second. But the other side is evidence. Like you want to make sure that your confidence is sort of backed by evidence. Like there's a reason why somebody should realistically experience a positive return on their investment because of the offer that you're making. And so that's the concept behind the evidence side of things. And the myth about evidence is it doesn't necessarily have to be personal historical evidence. For example, you don't have to say, because I was successful at charging a high ticket price, all of these times in the past, therefore I can charge a high ticket price in the future. And it's also not evidence-based in this, or historically based in the sense that you don't have to say, well, because I've been doing something for, X number of years, therefore I have the ability to charge a higher price. And so, but you do need to have a congruence between the price and the offer. So let's kind of dive into some examples. So what do I mean by the fact that you don't have to have historical evidence to be able to be confident in something? So for example, I could have never set foot ever before in a gym, but I know that if I start lifting weights, I'm going to get stronger, right? So that's a situation, just like a trivial, simple example of how you don't have to have evidence or historical based evidence in order to have confidence that when you do a thing, you'll get a result, right? So I've never lifted weights before in my life, for example, but I know that if I were to start lifting weights, then I would get stronger. Or maybe you've never been on a diet before, but if you cut out sugar and reduce calories, you will lose weight. And so you don't have to have ever tried the diet before to know that if you cut out sugar and calories, then you will lose weight. So that's something that you can have confidence in without having done it before. What's another example? Another example would be like when I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had never done anything like that before. It was my first experience into martial arts, and I had no real historical evidence that I would be good at doing that. But I did have confidence that if I surrounded myself with the right mentors and coaches, that I would be successful. And within 6 months of actually starting that training, I tapped out a state trooper who weighed 50 pounds more than I did. And so it's I had confidence that if I put myself in the right environment, surrounded myself with the right training and the right instructors and the right techniques and the right strategies and all of these other things, that I would then be much more successful at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or just wrestling and fighting in general than if I hadn't done any of those things. So so those are 3 big examples of how you don't have to have historical evidence in order to be confident in what you're proposing to do and to move forward. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about the evidence side. But then there's the reason side. There's the congruency aspect of confidence. And real confidence needs to be congruent with the investment you're asking your clients to make. So for example, an incongruent mindset would be something like, I have a degree in graphic design with 10 years of experience, and therefore my client should pay $10,000. Like something like that, because the reason and the evidence is inconsistent, meaning that, the fact that you have a graphic design degree and the fact that you've been doing this for 10 years and the fact that you've got great experience and all of that, does that have anything to do with whether or not your client is going to see a positive return on investment by buying a $10,000 logo or brand from you? Maybe it'll be a great logo that's very successful. Maybe not. Who's responsible for that success? Is it you or is it them? In this particular example, where the evidence and the history and the reason is incongruent with the investment, the fact that you have a graphic design degree, the fact that you spent 10 years building that kind of a skill set, the fact that you feel really good at it or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that your client's going to be able to leverage your graphic design work in a profitable way for themselves. And when you're working in the context, and here's another big point. I'm talking specifically about the context of working as a WordPress consultant with other small businesses. I'm not talking in the context of trying to get a job at a graphic design agency, because then the evidence of your degree and your time doing it and things like that would be applicable to the investment you're asking people to make. You would be asking the design agency to hire you because of your experience as a graphic designer, and that's what they're looking for. But in the context of working with small businesses, they're not really looking for, an amazing graphical artist. What they're really looking for is something that will generate business results for them. And that's a really, really big thing to understand. It's a critical thing to understand when you're trying to run your own business as like a solopreneur, especially like when you're connecting in with local businesses in your area, or even if they're not local to your area, there are other small businesses that maybe you know of from some other aspect of your social life or something. But the point is, in that arena, like when you're working with other entrepreneurs, other small businesses, other businesses in and around where you are, the evidence that you need to provide to them that it's a good investment for them is going to be results based. Like, what are they going to be able to do with what you produce to generate the outcomes that they're really looking for in their business? And so that's what it means to have congruency when it comes to your confidence. So an incongruent example was, you've got 10 years of experience, you can do graphic design, blah, 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 everything's great, therefore somebody should spend $10,000 on a logo. So the evidence of your experience is not consistent with how your client's going to see a positive return on investment. So what you do want to do is you want to make sure that you understand the outcomes your client wants. Then you want to say, hey, do I have the skills to bring about that result? And then say, for a fact that the client's going to be significantly better off because of you. And you know what your client needs, and you have what it takes to deliver on that success. And that's where real confidence comes from. That's what it means to be congruent, meaning that you think to yourself, I fully understand where my client is going. I'm very confident in my own skills to be able to get the client from point A to point B. Like, the skills that you have can pave the road to the results that your client's really trying to experience. And that you have 100% confidence that if they were to follow you and do what you're recommending, that they will be dramatically better off than if they did not do that. That's what real confidence comes from. And then when you begin to say, well, how do you approach your clients? Like, it fundamentally shifts the way that you view all of the components of your business when you approach it from that perspective, right? So you're not saying you should pay me a lot of money because of me, right? You're not looking at yourself and saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at all the things that I can do. You're not shining the light on yourself. But fake confidence, or at the very least, incongruent confidence, comes from shining the light on yourself. Meaning, like, I've got a graphic design degree, I've got all this experience, and my work is really worth whatever. Like, me, right? Like, that is not what you want to do if you want to inspire people to work with you and to inspire people into a high-ticket investment with you. What you need to do is you got to take the light and stop shining on yourself and shine it on your client. That's what ultimately you need to do. And that's where real confidence comes from. Because what you do is you think, What can I do to get my client from the situation that they're currently in into a better situation for their business? And then kind of lay it out. And like we just talked about, you don't necessarily even have to have done it before in order to know that you're going to be very successful at making that shift for them. In the same way that you don't have to necessarily have ever been into a gym to know that if you lift weights and you weren't lifting weights before, you will be stronger. How much stronger? That doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily know exactly, right? Like, I don't know how long I have to lift weights in order to be able to bench press 300 pounds or whatever. But I know that if I start lifting weights, I will be stronger than I am today in the future. And that's a realistic thing to take out into a business meeting, because you can't guarantee a specific result. Like, one of the common questions that people ask me all the time is, should I guarantee a result? And you don't want to guarantee a specific result, because no one can do that. It would be a fake guarantee. And you don't want to do that. Like, nobody, if you could do that, you would be the richest person in the world. You would just say, hey, I guarantee a huge result, and always do it. And you would have solved the problem of taking all the risk out of entrepreneurship and small business ownership and things like that. And of course, nobody can do that. And then if you begin to market yourself as if you are doing that, it's not going to resonate with anybody who's ever, that has any business savvy at all, because everyone knows there's risk. But what you can do is you can lay out a pattern for success. So for example, if I want to be stronger, then I should lift weights. Can I ever get to the point where I'm Mr. Olympia? I don't think so. I probably don't have the genetics, whatever, for it. But I know that I'll be significantly stronger than I am today if I pursue that. Same thing with losing weight, whatever. It's like, I don't have to ever been on a diet, but I know if I reduce my calories, I will eventually lose weight. I don't know exactly how fast or exactly how much, but it's going to be going in the right direction. Same thing when we were talking about the jiu-jitsu situation. It's like, is it going to take 4 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years? How long is it going to take before I can tap out a state trooper? I don't know. It took 6 months for me. And so, and that's significantly better than I was before. So the guarantee, if there is such a guarantee, is that it's significantly better than it currently is. And you can be very confident in that. Like, it's very difficult to say, I have confidence I'm going to put you #1 on Google for all the search phrases you ever want. What you can be confident in is, hey, if I do, A, B, and C, your search results will be dramatically better than they are today. Or if it's not search results, it's something else. It's generating leads. It's, increasing your brand's visibility. It's, connecting with new customers. It's, whatever the goals are. Like, again, it's very difficult in this large group setting to be specific about what to say, because there's like 1,200 people here or more. And so it's like, well, what if you're working with a landscaping business? What if you're working with someone who runs a golf course? What if you're working with artists? What if you're working with personal trainers or coaches or whatever? It's like, each different industry has different goals, But the point is, whatever the goals that your client has, if they were to do the things that you're recommending, will they or will they not be significantly better off than they otherwise would be had they not been doing those things? And that's where confidence comes from. So you want to put some thought into that, right? And you don't want to just, just kind of fly off the cuff, trying to show up at a client meeting, have some kind of a discovery session, and then just like off the top of your head, make a couple of random recommendations and then put a high ticket price on it. Because you can't do it that way. You can't have any confidence that, whatever you just thought up off the top of your head is really going to be successful. You've got to put some research into it and build some reason, have some evidence, have some substance behind what you're proposing to your client so that you believe in it. You have to believe in it. That's real confidence, comes from the fact that you're offering something to a client that you believe in. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And so then you have to say, well, why do I believe in it? And you want to have reasons, and you want to have evidence, and you want to have substance behind your beliefs. You don't want to just willy-nilly believe something just out of, stirring yourself up into some kind of a frenzy. So that's the essence behind confidence. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about is, why does confidence make a difference? Confidence is a crucial aspect to raising your pricing. But you can't just have confidence. You have to have more than just confidence. And we talked about the substance and real versus fake confidence, but there's more to it than just that. And again, it has more to do with taking the light off of you and putting it onto your client. And there's one other component to that that's really critical, and it boils down to leadership, right? Leadership. Because here's the thing. if you're having a meeting with your clients and you're trying to do a discovery session where you're trying to extract requirements from them as to what they need and what they want with regard to their online presence, there are problems with that. One problem is a lot of times your client doesn't even know what to ask for, especially today. Today, more so than ever before, there are so many different ways to be online. Like there's different kinds of websites, there's all kinds of marketing tools, there's all kinds of marketing platforms, there's different ways to do messaging, there's different ways to do follow-up sequences, there's all kinds of tools and platforms and things that could be deployed on behalf of your client. And probably most of those things your client doesn't even know about. And in a group like this, it's really easy to think that everybody knows about everything. But golly, the last time I was on the elevator with somebody, I was there, we got to talking about business and stuff, and they were like, hey, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, WordPress, whatever. And they're like, yeah, what's WordPress? And I was like, what? You've never heard of WordPress before? Like, how can there be a person on the earth who has never heard of WordPress? And it's like, because I'm so involved with people that know about WordPress. I've, for the last 17 years, have been doing web design, and for at least the last 12 have been deeply involved with WordPress. And so it's kind of like this shock when somebody's like, I've never heard of WordPress before. I don't know what all that's about. And so, but that's the thing. It's like if they've never heard of WordPress, they don't know what drip campaign means, or email marketing, or lead magnet, or landing page, or sales funnel or whatever. They don't know anything about any of that stuff, right? And that's a problem. So they're not going to be able to ask you to do things that they don't even know what they are, right? So when you're meeting with a client, if you're putting them kind of on the spot to tell you what they want, and you're asking them questions like, how many pages do you want? What's your budget? Then I'll tell you what I can do for that price. Who's your ideal client? What do you even do? Something like that. You're trying to get them to be responsible for their own success with what they want you to produce. And that's a big problem. And they won't have confidence in their own answers because they know off the bat that they're not experts in this. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to ask for something that they'll have confidence in with regard to the results that they get. But when you show up asking those types of questions, those like fundamental core questions about what your client needs, or you have some sort of a introductory survey that tries to gather that information for you, what you're ultimately showing your client is, hey, you know what? I don't know what you need either. That's why I'm asking you all these questions about what do you even do? Who's your ideal client? What's your pricing? All of these deep questions. You're saying, hey, I'm just going to try to figure out based on what you say, just off the top of my head, what I think might be a good idea. And so what's really happening is there's no leadership on either side of the table when you approach it in that way. And that's the biggest problem with regard to confidence, because you have to have leadership in order to breed confidence. Like leadership breeds confidence. And then confidence brings forth the high ticket investment. It's really like a 3-step sequence. First, you have the leadership. The leadership then brings forth confidence in what you're actually putting together. And then when someone has confidence in something, that's where the high ticket investment comes from. Regardless of what anyone's investing in, nobody will invest in anything unless they have confidence in the investment. And the more confidence somebody has, the more they are willing to invest. And again, leadership breeds confidence, and confidence brings forth those high ticket investments. Those are the 3 steps that you really want to be going through when you're thinking about raising your pricing. Because without the leadership, you're not going to have the confidence, and neither you nor your client will have confidence. And without that confidence, they won't accept the higher price. You can say the higher price, but they won't accept the higher price. They won't take that investment. They won't go the next step unless they actually do have confidence that there's going to be a positive return on their investment. I mean, take it out of the realm of web design and web development. Like, what if it's stocks or bonds or financial investments of other sorts? It's like, if you don't think the stock's going to go up, or you have at least some confidence that the person you're working with knows what they're talking about in terms of referring you into some sort of a good investment, you don't do it, right? You don't do it. And so that's a really big problem. So you can't. The last thing that I kind of want to leave you with is this. You can't give someone something that you don't have. Meaning that if you want your client to feel confident in you, you need to feel confident in yourself. And again, you don't want to have to fake that confidence. You don't want to have to be sitting there with this mask on your face. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you're in this client meeting, they keep asking you to do all this stuff that you've vaguely heard of before? You feel like you're pretty sure you can figure it out, but you've never done it before. But yet you have to fake that confidence and say, yeah, oh, I can do that. That's no problem. And then, of course, as soon as the meeting's over, you're like Googling everything to try to figure out what to do. That's not good. That's not really what you want. I mean, people can do that and you can have some degree of success in that, but wouldn't it be better if instead of having to like fake the confidence up front, that you were actually bringing forth like the power of your leadership, and you're doing it because you know that it's in your client's best interest. You're not just trying to do what they say. You're saying, hey, have you heard of this? Have you thought about that? And you're telling them things they've never heard of before, and you're giving them access to stuff that, without you would be out of reach for them. And you're establishing yourself in this leadership position. And when you do that, you inspire people to follow you, and they have confidence in following you. And when they have that degree of confidence, that's where the high ticket investment comes from. So that's the big picture. That's how it all works. That's where confidence comes from to raise your pricing. You don't have to, it's not phony confidence. It's not fake. You're not just drumming it up out of thin air. You're doing it based on reason. Like, you have reasons why what you're offering is a good idea. You have evidence, even if the evidence isn't historical in your personal life. You don't have to have that. You don't have to have 10 years of experience to know that, certain things are good ideas and other things are bad ideas. And then you want to make sure that you bring leadership. That's key, because you can have as much confidence in the world as you want, but if you're not leading your clients, if you're not taking that focus off of you and putting it onto them and figuring out how you can orchestrate the skill set that you have to best serve the person in front of you so that they're getting the results they're really depending on you for, that's not leadership. And if you don't have leadership, you're not going to be able to instill confidence in yourself. And if you don't have your own confidence, you're not going to be able to give confidence to anyone else. And that's going to mean there's no high ticket investment. There's nothing forthcoming from that. So that's going to be how all of that works. So there, if you've been in a situation where you've been thinking about wanting to increase your pricing, like say you want to double your rates or something, or if you've put in the time, like what if you're one of the people, like I talk to people like this all the time, where they've been in business for a couple of years, like they've put in the time, they paid their dues, so to speak, but they're not seeing an increase in their revenue. I mean, golly, just the other day, I was talking to a woman, and she takes on like almost the majority of her work comes through agencies. And she got a phone call from the agency saying, hey, you know what, we're gonna have to lower your hourly rate that we normally pay you because, our margins are just too thin, and our clients aren't, we kind of have to reduce our price a little bit because, our clients aren't accepting everything the way that they used to. And so now there she is. She's put in the time, she's developed her skill set, she's doing everything that she knows how to do, but she's not being able to raise her rates. And not only is she not able to raise her rates, she's actually having to lower her rates. And that's a problem. So anyway, so if you're in a situation like that, she had a whole nother situation. So the big problem there is you don't want to be reliant on overflow work from agencies and still be able to charge high ticket rates for your work, because then that's a whole other topic for another session. But the point is, if you're in a situation where you're thinking about raising your rates, you're thinking about, maybe you just don't, maybe you want to, you feel like what you have is worth it, but you're just feeling reluctant. You don't really necessarily have the confidence to move forward with it. Well, let's get on the phone and talk about it. Let's talk about how we can start implementing these changes like into your business right away. So, an interesting point about that is you're doing your clients a favor. Like it's in their best interest for you to raise your price, because once you raise your price, you can do better work. You can drive better results. You're not feeling resentment over the project. You're not burning yourself out. And if you burn yourself out, then what, right? So you're doing yourself a favor because you'll have the financial resources to do your best work. You'll be getting the best results for your clients. You're not feeling resentful. You're not getting frustrated, and you're not burning yourself out. And so that's actually what you want, and that's actually what your clients want too. So if you want to kind of work together, like how can we bundle together your services in such a way that it's, that you can articulate what they do in such a way that people do have confidence and you are bringing leadership to your client meetings? Well, let's get on the phone and chat about it. So for free. So head over to doublestack.net/call and you'll see my personal calendar. We can get on there and talk about your business and what your pricing really is. How do you raise your pricing? How do you do that in a way that inspires clients to follow you? How do you bring leadership into your client meetings? It's something that I call running a high value client meeting, as opposed to those discovery sessions where you're kind of just revealing that you don't really know what anybody needs, and you're just kind of off the top of your head trying to make the best kind of recommendation you can, but you haven't had a chance to really, put something together that's powerful. So let's fix all of that. Let's fix all of it so that you can actually have steady revenue coming in from a handful of clients that you really enjoy working with on an ongoing basis. And then that kind of leads into a different type of business where you don't have to go find clients all the time. And the majority of your work is billable time, which of course means that you can actually scale to, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 per month consistently, only working about 5 billable hours a day, 5 days a week. So you have, on an 8-hour day, that leaves you 3 hours a day to do non-billable work. And you still have your nights and weekends free. And at that level, you're bringing in over $100,000 a year with like somewhere between 5 to 10 total clients in your portfolio. So you've got stability of income, you've got high value offers, you're driving results for people. It's the kind of business that's just really exciting to wake up and be part of. It's something that I've been doing for a long time, and it's awesome. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for in your business and in your life, really, it's really a lifestyle shift, then let's get on the phone and talk about it. So it's doublestack.net/call, and we can get on there and figure out, how to start putting all this stuff into your business as well. So if that sounds good, awesome. And I will be seeing you guys next Tuesday at 2:00 is when we do these live sessions. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you want to try to chime in here on, leave a comment. I'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. Don't forget that we can get this stuff on the go. If we've got all this is available by way of a podcast on Apple and Google and Spotify, and also let me know. We talked a little bit about e-commerce the other day. I think that was last Thursday. We were doing an e-commerce session together. We talked about WooCommerce and Easy Digital downloads and Cart66 and subscriptions and memberships and content restriction and things like that. If you're thinking along the lines of any other e-commerce related questions about, what's the best way to get things going, let me know that too, because I'm planning a couple more e-commerce related sessions, and it'd be great to get your feedback on any kind of issues or questions or thoughts that you guys might have about WordPress and e-commerce. So awesome, guys. And there we go. So head over to doublestack.net/call, doublestack.net/call if you want to talk. You'll find my calendar. Pick a time that works for you. Fill out the little form thereafter that gives me a link to your website and a little bit of information about your business and things like that, so we can connect and start actually making a fundamental transformation in your business where you're not constantly hunting for clients. You're not just, in that price war to the bottom, and you're fundamentally shifting the way that you think about who you are. You're bringing leadership, and that obviously brings confidence. Confidence brings forth the high ticket investment. So if you don't take anything else away from this conversation today, take away those 3 points. First, you need leadership. Second, that your leadership will bring confidence into your client relationships, and that's really what's required if you want to raise your pricing. So that's what we've got for today. Here's a high five for you. Boop. And look forward to seeing you guys next week.